Today we're going to be talking about the H5 Flow, this new case from NZXT. They also have the H5 Elite, which has the glass panel in front instead of the mesh that you see here. Also has some RGB lighting. It's a little bit more expensive. Now the H5, if you're familiar with NZXT's cases, this is the newest version, the newest iteration in their 5 series, replacing the H510, which also had a Flow and Elite as well. And this case has been changed from the older generation a little bit. There's an interesting new fan that's down below, kind of pointing up, meant for cooling GPUs. It's also a little bit wider, so you have a little bit more space, and some of the cable routing options have also been changed, which I think is a very nice alteration. This case comes in at $95, so it's still underneath that $100 mark. But are these updates and changes, are they a good thing? Are these improvements over the last generation? Well, let's dive in and check it out. Hey everyone, I'm Jordan with 9 to 5 Toys. We're going to be focusing mainly on this case, and this is kind of like first impressions. I just finished my build in here, so I kind of want to go over, my thoughts on building in this case, and I actually swapped it out. I swapped all of my components out from the older H510 Flow, so I have a pretty fresh experience with what changing from the older generation to the newer generation and the differences between the two. And another thing to note here, we are also using NZXT's new cooler. This is their T120. This is the RGB, although I couldn't actually get it plugged into my motherboard, so I don't have the RGB running yet. But right up front, NZXT did send over this case and this cooler for me to check out. They're not sponsoring this video, so we can say whatever we want, but they did supply these for this review. I actually, after getting an H510 with the Foundations PC that we reviewed, I really enjoyed that case, and so when I was looking to upgrade mine, I think even earlier this year, I ended up buying an H510 Flow, swapped everything over there. I was really enjoying that case. The combination of looks, I love how these cases are designed. They're very simple, but that makes it look nice and elegant. Combined with the mesh everywhere, I really enjoyed the airflow of the H510 Flow. So when NZXT was announcing this new generation with the H5 and another Flow variation of it, I was really excited to check it out. And of course, we have the white version here. It also comes in black as well. And as you can see over on this side, I have the H510 Flow. And even though this is their white variation, there still is a lot of black on it as well. You can kind of tell the glass on here, the tempered glass, is kind of like a smoked gray, so it kind of darkens everything inside a little bit. But there are a lot of black accents, even on the feet. Whereas the white on the new H5 Flow, it's pretty much all white. There are like all the little screws are black, but everything else, even the feet are white. The panel on here is completely clear tempered glass as well, so it really shows off what's on the inside. It makes me want to, buy some better looking components, but that's what I have right now. And so they really just, doubled down on the white colorway here with the H5. And hitting on some of the other differences from the older generation, as you can see on here, the mesh design is different up front, and then up top, they have a much larger mesh that will actually accommodate up to a 240 millimeter radiator or 2 120 millimeter fans. So you can get a lot more cooling up top if you want it. And they have this little magnetic mesh cover on here that's easy to take out so that it's, makes it pretty easy for mounting as well. And then you can pop that back on there, and it's very easy to take in and out. And the other major update and new thing is that GPU fan that's located down here in front of where your power supply would be. And it has this special little shroud that, focuses the airflow right to a GPU. And we'll get into some thoughts on cooling in just a minute, but right now we're just kind of going over the different changes. So one of the first things I wanted to touch on is build quality. This is a $100 case or $95 case, almost $100. And as far as like extras that you're getting for that, you do get the case, you get the 2 fans that are included in here with a special little shroud thing down here. And then you also get some zip ties and some, other hardware for mounting different pieces in here. While I was actually assembling everything, I really didn't have many issues with it. There might be a little bit of shake and rattle, but me personally, after having this thing entirely built, I'm not really hearing any shake, and so I don't really have that big of an issue with the build quality. I feel like it's good enough for the price point. I wouldn't say that this is a premium case, but I'm not a super, experienced PC builder. But for me personally, who's still kind of new to it, I've been pretty impressed with how this case feels, definitely how it looks. Like I said, I love NZXT for their, aesthetic design and how simple everything is on here. And now that everything's all together, I'm really not seeing or hearing much flex or any rattling or anything like that. So it feels pretty solid once everything's built out in here. The only thing that I've kind of noticed that kind of makes it look a little bit cheaper is this magnetic cover up top. When you look at it from certain angles, because it's not a solid piece, that little magnetic mesh, it kind of looks like the top kind of dips in a little bit, which makes it look like a little bit lesser quality. But like I said, that's just because this is a, flimsy mesh up here that's sitting up top. That's what's giving it that look and that kind of feel. So as far as actually building in this case, I really like the updates that they've made on it over the older H510 Flow. The little plastic cable channel that was on the H510 Flow has been removed, and I really like this. I had a hard time with those hard channels, actually getting the cables to fit in there just perfectly. Now it's just Velcro straps, which for me was much easier to just place the cables in there. There's also a little bit of a larger gap up top near the top of the motherboard. And this is a small change, but for me, it did make running some of the cables up here a little bit easier and just was another nice little touch. And the case is overall about 3/4 of an inch wider, and at least 1/4 of that is in the side here where you run all the cables and everything. So there's just a little bit more room in there, which is really nice to be able to, shove extra cables in there and just make sure that everything's running nicely. Now, one big change is down below because of this fan where it is, they've removed the little hard drive tray that was down there that you could fit, a spinning disk or other drives down there. So if you have more than 2 hard drives, then that's going to make it a little bit more interesting to actually fit those down in here. But that being said, the little mounting place that is back here can accommodate either 2 SSDs or 1 spinning disk and 1 SSD. So that should be enough for most people, but if you need more, then that's definitely something you're gonna wanna consider and maybe look for a case that has a little bit more room down here. Now, like I mentioned, I'm not a super experienced PC builder, so coming from my perspective, where I've done it, a handful of times, I found this case really easy to work with. It was really easy to route everything around here, figure out nice, clean ways of running all of my cables. Yeah, I've really enjoyed my time so far using this case. And moving on to cooling in here, which is going to be one interesting thing, obviously, because the fan is located down here, which is a very interesting placement for the fan in the front. And they don't have a fan in the front mesh here, which is also interesting. Obviously, you can mount 2 fans in there or a radiator in there as well. I think I ended up ordering a couple more fans to put in there just to kind of play around with cooling and see what that does. I don't have a huge backlog of benchmarking statistics to compare this to, but I can give you my system specs and I can give you the temperatures that I was getting while running some different benchmarks. For the CPU, running a 10-minute Cinebench benchmark test, it was hovering around 66 degrees Celsius. So obviously well within operating limits, everything was fine there. And the fan noise, while it was doing that, wasn't too loud or anything like that. So I was really impressed with how it handled that. Once again, I mean, there aren't a ton of fans in here, so it was a little more quiet. Then moving on to the GPU, running the Heaven benchmark, I was, after like 12 or 15 minutes, I was at about 78 degrees Celsius. So a little bit warmer, but everything seemed to run fine. It was running at usually 97 to 98% load. So nothing like super crazy high end, but that kind of gives you an idea of the mid-range that I'm running and what kind of temperatures I was getting. And one other note here, NZXT has posted a couple of videos or pictures or something on their social media that you can fit a 4090 in here. So there's no worries about, fitment for that, which is great considering how massive some of these cards are getting. All right, so overall, wrapping up here, for $95, is this a great case? I mean, it kind of depends on you and what you want to do. For me, it ticks all the boxes that I'm looking for in a case. Like I said, I mean, my case is usually sitting here on my desk. It's usually in a lot of my videos. And so I want something that looks good, is aesthetically pleasing to me, and I love the look of this case. It's very simple, but still looks nice and elegant because of that. And then the other big part, being a more novice PC builder, is it easy to work on? Yes, it's been very easy for me, and it seems like there's enough room to fit pretty much everything in there that I would need to. And there's more room to expand on that. Like I said, I've got a couple fans coming in the front that I'll put in there. They're RGB fans, so I'll get a little controller and then I'll actually, put some color in here and everything too. And then if I need even more cooling, you know, I can put something up top as well. So it's nice to have that expandability in this case as well. It's unfortunate that this is a little bit more expensive than what some of the outgoing cases were from NZXT, but, you know, it seems like everything right now is getting a little bit more expensive. You know, luckily it's not, you know, $50 more. It's still under $100. But yeah, for $95, in my opinion, you're getting a solid case here that has some nice expandability and lots of usability. All right, well, that's gonna do it for our kind of first impressions hands-on review of the NZXT H5 case. We might do a follow-up once I get some more fans in here if you wanna see how everything's running. But until then, let us know down in the comments what you think about this, and if you're looking for some other videos to watch, I will link to a couple over here on the side. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up so other people can find it easier, and consider subscribing. This is Jordan with 9to5 Toys.